Howdy folks, this is Travis Samora from Texas. It's 26 August, Saturday, 2023. And today I'm going to be talking about communications, different types of radio communications and other communications. And before we get into that, I want to back up a little bit. I want to show you the outline, so give me just a moment here, see if I can do this seamlessly. Okay, I'm back with you, and here's part of the outline, beginning of the outline for today. I'm going to be talking about comms or communications, and I call myself and my channel RAGTAG, Reality Awareness Group and Transformative Action Goals. And I'm Travis D. Samora at Travis TechSin. And, you know, in talking about communications, what's concerned, and from a preparation standpoint, what's the threat assessment relative to communications? It could be nuclear war, electrical grid collapse, society disorder, natural disasters, and one of those could be a solar flare. A solar flare activity is supposed to peak in 2025. It goes on 11-year cycles, and it's going to be peaking in 2025. So as we go into 2024, there'll be more solar flares, and it'll peak in 2025. There was a solar flare that disabled communications across a pretty good sized region in Canada about 100 years ago, and it actually burned up telegraph lines and that kind of thing. So that's kind of the background of where we're headed on this. And in every video I do, I'm going to include some scripture, and it may be this is the same one. But in Philippians 4, 2 sentences, and I only have, I went to start about halfway in verse 12. Paul is writing to the Philippians and encouraging them. And Paul had been persecuted a lot. He'd been arrested a lot. And these different struggles. He said, in every circumstance I've learned the secret of being filled and going hungry, both of having abundance and suffering need. And he said, I can do all things through him who strengthens me. That means I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Amen? So, and don't freak out when you see that military decision-making model. I'll discuss that in a minute. But I want to show you another, who am I? And I'm going to put this in every video just so people have it as a reference. There's going to be all my videos, like on YouTube and the others, I'm going to try to show a Dropbox link where you can pull up this outline and see my affiliate links and who I am and all that. But I was with the Houston Police Department for 25 years, worked patrol, vice, CID, Criminal Intelligence Division, and I was on several federal task forces. Worked Kerr County Sheriff's Office for a year, and then I came back and worked Austin County Sheriff's Office for 3 years, which was 2nd County west of Houston. I was working there, and I was on the Emergency Management Board when 9/11 happened. So I was tasked with researching things about nuclear events and all that with Austin County. And then after that, I made 3 trips as a law enforcement professional embedded with U.S. Army in Afghanistan. We were called LEPs, law enforcement professional. The first year I was actually called a police advisor, and I was working in Kapisa province. Then in 2009, 2010, Fob Tillman on the Pakistan border. And then this last trip, July 13 to March 14, I was in Kunar province and as a LEP, and I was on the Security Force Advisor Assist team. And so we were working with their coordination center. And, so that's who I am. And let me move on here. One of the things about, what's the goal of my presentation? The goal of all of my presentations is transformative action for myself, which includes producing more videos. But I'm trying to share with others and help us all move from uncertainty to clarity and from fearful to determined and confident. And I'm trying to connect that to my confidence through my faith in Christ. And this may seem a little brash, but I'm no longer interested in awakening the masses. they made it clear they're not interested. I'm here to connect with like-minded people and assist those who want to learn. One of the things I've been wanting to do, and I'm going through some training. Eric Davis has a program, Tribe 215, and part of that is transformative action. Okay, and he talks about building a tribe of people, like-minded people, and people who are wanting to advance and have similar goals and that kind of thing. I go to church, got 700 members. There's probably not 10 there that I could talk about the things I'm talking about with you. They're just not interested. And it's not they're bad people. They're great people. But they're living their busy lives, and they don't want to think about preparation. They don't want to think about problems in the world. Everything's going to be okay. I'm just going to put my nose to the grindstone and keep moving forward. Everything will work out. And I can't do anything about it anyhow. That's not who I want to talk to. I want to associate with you. If you're looking at this video, you're probably thinking about preparation or trying to better yourself, something. And you're the kind of people I want to associate with. Let's come together and build each other up, and think outside the box. That's who I want to associate with. So, with all that having been said, I want to go back now to the outline, and we'll start going down through this. And I put this on here. Today's focus again is on communications, and I'm going to focus on radio communications, but touch on some others. So it's not just about radios, but I think that's an important thing to consider. And I put this on here kind of for your review. Military decision-making process. You know, when I was on federal task forces, I was working with a lot of former military guys and these federal governments, and they use this process to some extent. We use this on tactical level at Houston Police Department. If I was a supervisor on a narcotics raid, I had to have a plan of execution. I had to put it on the trunk of a car and say, hey guys, this is our plan, written plan, and this is how we're going to execute this raid, before we went in, or we were all liable for not having a plan. So, and it was very similar in the working with the military, and I was embedded with them for 3 full years. I was deployed with them overseas for 2 years, 8 months across a span of 3 years, and not consecutive years. You see the gaps in it. But anyhow, in the military decision making, you can use this like planning a trip to the grocery store. Okay, you know and you see number 1 there, and I'll move my cursor and make you dizzy. But number 1, receipt of mission. The mission is go get groceries. Mission analysis. The grocery store is open. Course of action development. Well, the primary road there is under construction. They've got it blocked part of the time, but there's a secondary road I can use to be good. That's course of action development. Course of action analysis. Well, that secondary road is subject to flooding and it's raining, so I'm going to take the 3rd route. Okay, and then comparison. First route's under construction, second route's subject to flooding, 3rd route's good, so I'll take the 3rd route. And then who's got to approve it? Your wife give you permission, or you give yourself permission. It can be that simple. And then you execute. You get in the car, take the 3rd route, and go get your groceries. Same thing if you got 20 people, all communications and support has been destroyed, say by a hurricane, and you guys all need some water, and there's a lake over there about 400 yards away, and you're 20 people in your community. Okay, 10 of us are going to stay here, 10 of us are going to take buckets and go get water at the lake. 10 of us will guard our houses here from looters, while the other 10 walk 400 yards and go get some water in our buckets and come back with. You can put this at any level, you know, or if there's 1,000 of you in your community and you want to protect the community and find out who has water, who can provide medical support, you can use these same 7 steps, whether it's one person planning to take an action or it's 1,000. Doesn't matter. And if you've never thought about things in these terms, that's why I want to share this with you. Put this kind of thinking in your mind and look at it and reflect on it. Now let's move on down here. Solutions for communication. and maybe I should move this up here a little bit. Can't do it right now. But radio communications, come here, cursor. Radio communications, self-powered, protected, and portable. That's what you need to think about. Solar panels and capacity charged communication equipment and Faraday protection. There's a thing, hand crank radios, and I have one right here. I'll hold it up. Okay. There's a little hand crank radio. It's got a crank on the back of it. Right here, you fold it out, and you can crank this thing and charge it. Wasn't that a great sound? When I was in Afghanistan, we gave these away by the hundreds. We also had our own AM radio station. We had some Afghans running it, and they broadcast programs about our side, community news. They even had a little game show type thing that they did. But something this simple, it's a NOAA weather radio with a crank so it can recharge, and it has a little solar thing that flips up so it recharges by solar, or you can hand crank it, and it's got a USB port here on the back where you can charge your cell phone. So those are the kind of things I'm going to be talking about. And so you're thinking about preparation. Okay, radio communication, self-powered, protected, and portable. What do you mean by self-powered? I can't run a ham radio off this, hooking it up to this crank radio over here. Well, there's solar communications, and that's the second line there, solar panels and capacity to charge communication equipment. I'm going to see if I can bring up my pictures now. All right, here they are. I have installed this little solar system at my house. It's very rudimentary, but it's functional. And what you see on the top of this metal roof that's over an extension on my back porch is a 100-watt solar panel, and which means I can even put a power inverter on it and run a 110-volt fan for a few hours. If I add more batteries to the battery storage, I can run a fan all night. But right now I can do a few things. I could run a string of LED lights off of it, no problem, all night. And you see a little antenna there is what they call a quarter wave. It's like the little mag mount antenna you put on top of your car. So let me show you the next picture. And all of these solar panels have to come through a solar controller. I'm studying for my ham radio test now. I'm going to take my test in about a week, and I'll do another video after I pass my test. I know I can pass the technician. There's 3 levels: technician, general, and expert or whatever. And so, but I want to make sure I get the first license, and I think I'm going to try to test for general at the same time. Oh, it's extra. Technician, general, and extra. And the extra can use any kind of ham radio equipment and operate on the whole range of ham radio frequencies. But this controller, there's a couple things I want to point out to you on it. I've got heavier wires coming in on the left side and then some lighter ones out on the right. But when you're bringing that power off that solar panel, you run it through this controller, then to your battery. And then you come off of this to your outlets. Let me show you the next picture. Right now I have one outlet, and it's kind of where my cursor is up there now. But it's over here on this post below the controller. Let me go to that. It's just like the 12-volt socket you have for a power outlet in the dash of your car. And I'm going to buy a 3-socket marine unit that has a USB connection and it's waterproof. They call it a marine unit because you can put it on the boat and it's waterproof. Let me go back to this one picture. But you see that ladder, I've actually got that ladder fixed full time so I can get up and clean the top of my solar panel or whatever, and move my antenna. But the wires come down, go to the controller, and then over to the battery and then from the controller over to my 12-volt socket. And what you see on the wood counter there is a little 25-watt radio Didity GMRS radio. It's not a ham radio. It's a step down from that technology. It's basically line of sight, with the exception that they set up repeaters in a lot of these towns. So if I hit that repeater that's 4 miles north of me, then I can probably talk to someone 8 miles north of me that's in range of that same repeater. And it's a way to retransmit that radio signal to a wider area. And so that's my setup. It's simple. Right now, I just set this thing up, wanted to kind of test it and work through it and test my radios. I'll be moving the battery and the outlets to the interior of my house. Just not prepared to do that. I just set it up real quick, so I kind of tested it for this video. But that's what that is. So back to the outline. I'm going to go through and talk about some things about ham radio. I'm not going to be giving a technical class today on this is how you operate a ham radio. I may mention a few functions and things like that, but I'm not going to teach you how to wire a radio together, what all the specifications are and all that. I want to go over the types of communication and the pros and cons and pluses and minuses in different kind of environment. And as you read about this, you may, especially if you're reading from a ham radio site on the website, you may see something about phone communications. Well, it's not talking about using your cell phone. It's just a voice communication on an amateur radio is called phone communication. Okay, and you can talk on different frequencies according to how you're licensed. You get the higher license you get, the more range of frequencies that also affect the range you can talk are there. All right. When you get these radios, they may or may not be programmed the way you want or with your local repeaters, but you can get with like your local repeater group. If it's your ham radio repeater group. I'm joining, I'm in Texas, in Washington County in Texas, and I'm joining the Washington County ham radio group. But I'm not really going to be able to join completely until I pass the test and get a license, which will be this coming Thursday. But you get your radio program. There's a free program called Chirp, and you can, once you get the data on the frequencies from your local group, you go into Chirp, and without getting into details, you hook your radio up to your laptop and you can load those frequencies in where you can talk on the local repeaters. Okay? And if you're getting into ham radio, you will take a look at the American Radio Relay League, and I've got the website there. It's the National Association for Amateur Radio, connecting hams around the U.S. and all that. And then there's some other things that you can do to both increase your skill level with the radio and be more aware of what's going on, especially in an emergency. You can join the Amateur Radio Emergency Service, ARES, and then there's more localized, the races. But these are ham radio clubs and groups that consist of amateur licensed radio operators who are trained to provide radio communication services to civil and government agencies in times of emergency. So if you're part of that group and something goes down, I don't care if a nuclear bomb goes off in Chicago and they shut everything down, all the cell towers quit. If you're part of that ARES or racist group, then you're going to be in the loop on the communication. What's going on in your community? Is everybody okay? Is there any need? Whatever's going on, you'll be in the loop on that. And if you want to, if you go to that ARRL.org, they have a Find a Club tab, so you can find a club close to you wherever you're at in the United States. Now, I was talking earlier about GMRS. There's no license for GMRS, but it's much more limited on range. You do have to pay a little fee for a license, and you can have portable family units. I've got a couple of radios. They got little handhelds like this, little 5 watt handhelds, but line of sight, I have talked 2 miles on this radio to my wife, 2 miles out, but she was on one hill and I was on another, direct line of sight, and 5 watts had plenty of power. We had clear communication. And what you saw on the counter was this little 25 watt mobile unit that you can put in your car or use as a base station. And with my antenna up on top of that metal roof, it's got what they call ground plane. It's sending that signal out better, and it's up just high enough. I could probably talk 4 or 5 miles. From where I live, there's slight rolling hills, but I get somebody up on a hill 3, 4, 5 miles away with that 25 watts, which is probably really half of that, but I'll be able to reach them and have clear communications. So in your community, that's a benefit. And then these little handheld units, like I was showing you here, these little 5 watt handheld units, I've given one to each of my 2 neighbors that live behind me. So if we have a tornado come through or whatever, we can get on the radio if the cell phones aren't working. If that tornado took out the cell tower, communications in our area, or is interfering with it, we can still talk. And, we're several hundred yards apart, so rather than have to run over and physically see each other to communicate, we'll be able to talk at some distance. A lot of benefits to that. Or you can take it when you're out hiking or whatever. But GMRS is General Mobile Radio Service. It says a licensed radio service, but it's just a feed, no test. It operates in a certain range, and you can even do some data communications on it. And there's some more about. There's USAGMRS.com, and then here again, there are repeaters that these radio groups set up in Washington County, up on like 4 different locations. The ham radio operators have antennas up on really high points so they can have repeater connectivity 10, 15, 20 miles at least, across probably 30 miles. I know I was listening to them talking to some folks the other day that were 25 miles away. So the GMRS systems, these kind of like family systems, have the repeater set up, not quite as much range, but you can still, I can get probably all the way across Washington County talking on. So in Texas, these different counties, you'll probably be able to talk all the way across your county if they have a repeater system set up and a repeater still functioning. It's got to have power. So they may have diesel power backups in case a tornado hits or some, other disaster, nuclear deal or attack or whatever. So whatever the problem may be, electrical grid going down, which could be a cyber attack, doesn't have to be an overt war attack that we can see, a cyber attack. China and Russia have the capacity to turn our electricity off. And what you going to do about it? So, different topics sort of, but you still be able to communicate if you got your solar panel and you can charge and have a active electrical load to communicate out with. Like I said, GMRS, they have the repeaters, and I've got highlighted there in the center where my cursor's bouncing around. CB radios are kind of similar to GMRS, no license requirement. I used to have a CB, and on the skip, when I say skip, if atmospherics are just right, different times of the day, your signal will go up and out and bounce off the base of the clouds. That's called tropospheric, but different kinds of skip. And it can go out, skip, and come down 100, 200 miles away. So you might suddenly find yourself having a conversation with someone 200 miles away. And but that's rare. Most of the time it's line of sight, and CB is pretty short, like a mile or less. But it's still an effective communication if you and your neighbors are trying to communicate, protect each other, or direct emergency services in, or whatever. You can still communicate across that short distance effectively with CB radio. Now I want to get into something a little different. Satellite phones and satellite security. I've used satellite phones before. I've had, in 2008, I was in Capisa Province. I had a satellite comm system with an antenna, a cone-shaped antenna that could direct towards satellite, and set up. I had a phone, and I could send data to it. Kind of gave me like an internet connection. And I had reports I had to do every evening, so that was the only way I had to get those digital reports sent into our base. And my base, home office, was actually in Kabul, even though I was working out of Bagram, and then detailed out to Capisa Province. But whatever, it gave you a lot of range. There's some great sat phones out there now, great services, but you cannot necessarily count on them. If we get into a kinetic war with China and or Russia, or both, which some people are talking about, you need to be aware that the satellites are not guaranteed to make it. And in the kind of in the middle here, they talk about most accessible targets are here on Earth. The ground control stations for those satellites are on Earth. So if an enemy hit those ground control stations with a conventional or nuclear, put them out, the satellite's going to quit functioning. But the other thing, they have these directed energy weapons, and other weapons include long-duration orbital interceptors and directed energy weapons. And I've got that underlined beside my cursor down here. So satellite communications are also vulnerable to electronic attacks, like jamming, spoofing, and hackers. So when I was moving around in Afghanistan, we had jamming equipment that we used on every movement. We had a bubble, a jamming bubble that went out a certain distance from our vehicles, and we tried to stay within each other's radius of operations when we moved down the road. And if the bad guys had a phone communication or electronic signal device, they wanted to pop an IED on us, it wouldn't work because we were jamming those signals. Well, it was also funny. We pull into a base, and all of a sudden you can see guys talking on the phone. They're going, "Hey, man, what happened?" And we were shutting off their cell phone signals. So there's a lot of techniques that can defeat any electronic communication device. That's part of what I'm getting at. And, they've got jammers. They're talking about that. And I'll move on down here. So I'm getting close to wrapping this up. I just want so back to radios for the most reliable means of communication. And I'm talking about protected radios, Faraday protected from EMPs. I got some Faraday cloth. My wife made a pouch, and here it is. It's about the size of a pillowcase. And you saw these radios. By the way, here's my little handheld Baofeng ham radio with a quarter wave antenna on it. But see how small this is? This will fit in the pillowcase. And then I have these other radios, so they're all pretty small. I can put every radio I have in one pillowcase size envelope, Faraday protection. And if I keep them in there at night, and when I'm not using them, then if somebody pops off an EMP somewhere, my radios will still function, And those are things to be, think about. But it comes back to the radios. if we get hit with an EMP, they'll shut the cell towers off, and these iPhones and everything aren't going to function. So in order to at least be aware of what's going on in your region and your community, and the NOAA weather radio I showed you a while ago, the U.S. government will be broadcasting on the AM stations and NOAA weather radio stations for emergency broadcasts. So if you want to know what's going on regionally according to the government, or if you want a broader base of information, radios. And also one other thing I understand, because I've been involved in this, all communications can be intercepted. Be thoughtful about those communications. Be thoughtful about what you say. You don't want to bring fire on yourself if you can prevent it. You know, or putting opinions and feelings out doesn't help communication. What's the situation? We had a 9-line, and I've got one in the drawer here. If we had anybody injured out in the field, it was a 9-line, and if we reported to command what our situation was, what the enemy threat was, how many injured we have, what their injuries were, it was 9 lines. And, it was bottom line up front. Here's what status is. Here's what the situation is. There was no emotion. Like, I really think that's terrible, and they were very rude to do that to us. That's not part of it. The situation is this. The roads are clear, or there's ice and snow on the roads, and I see 1,000 blue helmet UN moving up the highway. Whatever the situation is, that's all you need to communicate. Not what you think about one political party or the other. You can work that out later, but just communicate the facts. So that's kind of where I'm at. I want to show you, and it'll be on the various media I present, like on YouTube, while I can with them, and other links like Getter. I'll have my affiliate links there. Right now, I've got a new one with Jace Medical. So if you need medicine, not so much bandaging, but medicine, different types of medicine to help you get through different things that might be coming. Jace Medical, and that's my link. If you click on that, I'll get a little credit, and I appreciate it. And then below that's Radio Didity. What a great name. But that's my link. If you click on that and buy any of their products, it'll help me out. And then below that's my YouTube channel, and just so you can see all my videos in one place. And then I'm going to have these Dropbox links where, like this outline that I've gone through with you today, that's what that Dropbox link is going to be. You just get this outline. So, I appreciate y'all listening and looking at this material. Like I said at the beginning, it's important to share things, and I want to build around me a tribe, a collection of people, like-minded people that want to move forward, be positive about this, share communications. Let's build each other up and move forward. And let's do it in Christ. I appreciate your time, and I'll see. I've got 21 topics, and I forget which the next topic will be on financial. I kind of touched on radios, 7 and 8, communications and solar panels today. Next time I'm going to be talking about financial. And so have a great day, and we'll see you later.